So welcome to this mini-series on pilot and feasibility studies, our video recordings. My name is Professor Sandra Eldridge. I'm the lead of the pilot and feasibility studies collaboration that's put this work together. And until December, I was working at Queen Mary University of London.
And hello, and I'm Professor Christine Bond, and I'm Emeritus Professor at the University of Aberdeen. And I'm really privileged to be part of Sandra's collaboration. So Sandra, I wanted to ask you a little bit about how all this work got started, because when I look at the website that we have on pilot and feasibilities, I can see we've achieved so much, but what was it that I guess motivated you to start this program of work?
Yeah, so I think the idea began for me in 2010. I'd been seeing an increasing number of pilot feasibility studies, both published and conferences, that I thought had significant flaws. And then we tried to get one of our pilot studies published, and the journal editors had very different ideas from us about how we should present it. It was at that point that I thought about doing a workshop at the Society for Academic Primary Care conference in 2011. And I did that with Sally Kerry and with Jill Lancaster and Mike Campbell, who'd already published work on guidelines for pilot feasibility studies. And I think that's where you came in.
It is. I saw the workshop as part of the program, and I was really excited because I'd had a similar experience really in trying to get a very good piece of work published that was a pilot study, but had been finding it difficult because people didn't want to publish pilot studies. And I hope the workshop might change things.
And I think the idea of change was key, and the workshop began to crystallize some of the changes that were needed. So many investigators and editors were ignoring the fact that the objectives of a pilot feasibility study are very different from that of the definitive study, and treating them really as if they were the same thing. So there was real interest in guidance in this area at the workshop.
Yeah, so I think we all came to the conclusion really that what was needed was a reporting checklist or guideline specifically for pilot and feasibility studies. And I guess you went away with that idea and thought about how we could make it happen.
Yeah, and we recognised also that there was existing guidance, didn't we? That Jill Lancaster, Mike Campbell and Lahana Thabane had already published in that area. So it brought them together, and also Sally Hopewell because of her expertise in reporting guidance.
That's right, and those meetings were really, I guess, exciting as we tried to tease out what it was we meant by pilot and feasibility studies.
Yeah, and I think we began to realise that within the research community there were very different views about what pilot feasibility studies were and how they related to each other, and this wasn't a small piece of work, and that's where Claire Chan, my research fellow, also got involved in the group.
That's right, and I guess this is now when I became more involved, and we looked at the existing definitions from the MRC and NIHR and thought of draft checklists, reporting checklists that we could have, one for pilot and one for feasibility studies, and thought we would test the ideas of the wider research community, the wider research community with the Delphi.
Yeah. And so we did the Delphi, and it was interesting that participants really liked what we were doing, but there was still considerable disagreement within the research community. And that's when we had that satellite meeting in Edinburgh in 2013, where we got people together to think about, should we do one guideline, should we do two guidelines? Yeah.
Oh yes, that's right, and that's really when it all came together and our ideas really did crystallize out. We agreed that it would just be one reporting checklist and one guideline, and that we also had clear ideas, I think, about the whole conceptual framework for pilot and feasibility studies.
Yeah. And so that resulted in the two papers, the consort extension and the framework, the conceptual paper. And I think also quite a degree of consensus among the research community about what we were doing and the fact that this was useful and helpful. So I hope you found this introduction helpful, and do tune in to some of the other videos and find out in a bit more detail the work that we've been doing. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for listening.